So I recently graduated for my PhD a couple of weeks ago. And I remember the morning, I remember the feeling, I remember the sense of achievement. I was elated, right? I was super proud of myself for having gone through that process of, identifying a problem in society and spending 4 years of my life doing as much research as possible to find a solution to that problem, or at least contribute to conversations around that problem. And just a fun fact or a side note, I am a gender historian. So my research was about Black women's lives and how historically, they've tried to almost pave way and chart a trajectory for their lives independently. So I'm not going to start, pitching my PhD study, but I'm just saying that I'm also coming from that perspective. But let me tell you, when I went to my graduation, it didn't take anyone else to tell me or to remind me of the fact that I was actually, in fact, going there without a partner. My supervisor, happy for me. We hugging it out. We having a nice little moment to say, actually, this is the day. I'm the one, me, who decides to mention that, yes, it's a big day, but he's not around. I was supposed to be here with my husband, but he's not around. No one asked me to say that. She wasn't thinking that, but I am the one who felt the need to almost like apologize for it, right? Because of how ingrained this idea of how things are supposed to happen, the order in which things are supposed to happen for us women is in my psyche. So instead of just existing as an individual proud of this achievement just for its own sake, I also felt like I'm bringing into the experience a lack of some sort because there was no partner that I could celebrate with. And granted, I've also been almost manifesting him, trying to position myself all through as I was doing my PhD, position myself in situations where I might meet a person and maybe go into online dating apps and all of those things. So it's not as if I was just burying myself in my work in the house and not exposing myself to maybe potentially meeting a partner, right? But it just didn't happen. And unfortunately, also for a high achieving woman like myself, getting a partner or getting married is not something that I can determine single-handedly. Like, it's not a goal. It's not like something you can just put on a vision board and then say, you know what? This is my vision. This is what he looks like. This is how he feels. And then I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order for me to get there. It's not the same thing. Why? Because it takes another whole human being to meet you there. Like, it takes someone else also being ready, also having those characteristics that you need. And it takes a moment where both of you are in a space where you actually see each other for that thing to actually happen. So, while I was doing my PhD, I was like, okay, by the time I'm done, by the time, I've submitted, I'll have, time to maybe meet someone, and perhaps that's when then I'll invite him to my graduation. Or if I'm lucky, we're going to meet even before I'm done with my PhD. And by the time I get to my graduation, we'll be so serious. We're going to be maybe even married, and it's going to be such a moment. But that didn't happen, right? So that's just to say that the choice to remain single and the choice to not be, married, not have children is the best choice that I got right now, right? It's not like there were other options presented to me that were better than this. The other options presented to me were to do with some kind of settling, some kind of dating below my socioeconomic level, and I don't think that's a fair thing to ask of a person like me, a person that has worked hard for the things that they have. They've built and developed a resilient character. And, if someone's going to come into my space, they also need to have gone through some of those things. They need to have built themselves in some capacity to be able to understand where I'm coming from, understand the type of life that I live, and understand why I would expect a person of a particular social standing. So even if it's not necessarily my choice that I'm, right now still single, what remains a choice, I think, is once I have met them, whether or not I do in fact want to get married. And I'm thinking a lot about whether getting into the institution itself of marriage, as in like legally, is something that can benefit a young modern Black woman like myself, whose desires I think are not necessarily prioritized or catered for within a marriage as we have it in South Africa now. And again, that this is demonstrated by the dynamics that you see in shows like Married at First Sight. And also as someone who's been in the South African dating scene, which is not easy, which is very taxing on one's self-esteem and self-confidence, which begs the question of how ready are young Black men in South Africa to actually carry an entire family and an entire household. I'm using the archetypes from Married at First Sight because I think they do in some way or another reflect the actual reality of South African marriages, and the fact that those marriages are still very much in favor of the male experience. And yes, we can argue that, the situation is changing, that millennials more and more are deciding to marry for love, and they are going into this with a clear consciousness as to the fact that gender dynamics and gender roles are now changing. But somehow, once people say I do, it seems as if that switch changes and people are again drawn back into those traditional ideals. Christianity is widely practiced in South African Black families. It is, the church is present. The church is influencing people's thinking around family, around gender relations in the household. There's a bit of a renaissance going on again with African traditional practices. It seems like people are wanting to go back to, a somehow previously romantic idea of what African families or African culture was like before colonization. So there's that romanticization and a bringing back of some of those traditional ideals. A lot more young men are talking about polygamy all of a sudden when they know nothing about polygamy and how it started and why it happened historically, and suddenly they've got callings and they want to get into polygamy. And then you have also the messaging, obviously, from social media, the manosphere. South Africa is very much influenced by American culture. So discussions around red pill, blue pill things is very much influencing how South African men think about dating and gender roles in relationships, right? So it's very difficult for two individuals to come together and decide what's going to work for them and actually implement that within the marriage. Because once you get married, the switch flips. There's all these expectations from family. There's all of this imposition by parents and extended family as to what exactly you're supposed to be doing as a man, as a woman in the marriage itself. So on Married at First Sight, we get this kind of simulation, right? Where people will meet. If you haven't watched it, you apply into the show, you outline what your needs are, what kind of partner you're looking for. And then a group of experts, sex experts, therapists, whatever the case is, come together and then they match you with a suitable partner, right? And then you meet the partner for the first time when you are walking down the aisle. So the family also is there and they are told just before the wedding that actually you're here to marry me to someone that I don't know and blah, 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 right? So then they go into the simulation and the dynamics, right, of married life start to play out, and we get to see this over a period, I think, of 6 weeks. And then ultimately the couple gets to decide whether or not they want to stay together, and then they can continue doing the traditional stuff. In the first season, it was a young sort of selection of millennials. It felt fresh. It felt new, right? Now, the second season, because it's a much more mature selection of millennials, they're about 37, 8. I thought maybe there was going to be a bit of a change or a difference in the attitude. There was going to be some kind of seriousness around wanting to be a loving partner. I thought that they were going to be a lot more decided and clear around what they want to contribute that is positive to their marriages, but also understanding just the sheer amount of energy, communication, understanding that they're supposed to bring into the marriage context. But it seems like it's even worse. In the first season, we have Nkululeko, who is just blatantly and without apology performing the sense of man of godliness thing. I don't know what is going on with him, but it's so clearly disingenuous that he has obviously had a history of hoeing in and out of relationships, one of which was with Makoto, who is the one he was partnered with. Makoto's, I think, ex-best friend, she said. He is clearly, out of the streets and suddenly has found God and wants to mold his wife and his family and his home into this Christian utopia where he is the leader and Makoto is going to be led by him and his wise ways. You should see him going on and on, especially in the first 2 or 3 episodes. It was just so funny. You could just see right through the act, and Makoto would say, in the diaries that this person is not even, as Christian as you think. Behind the scenes, he's drinking alcohol with me. He is smoking with me. You understand? So he is putting up this facade about being such a Christian man because he is now deciding that he's done with his hoeing. But also it's like, why is he going to this show to find a person when he is a church man, right? There's plenty of women in the church that are looking to obey and submit to their husbands. Why is he going to a show to find another woman who he knows for sure may not be as equally yoked as he is? Because he's not interested, right, in this traditional family Christian structure. He's just interested in getting a woman to submit to him and doing whatever he wants while still enjoying the benefits of the streets, right? Or this aesthetic of being in the streets or being with a modern woman. So it's like, he doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know what he's doing there. On top of that, he's battling erectile dysfunction, like an entire erectile dysfunction. Makoto is obviously distraught over the fact that he says that he wants to wait for 2 months before they have sex. And then by the time they finally get to it, he can't get it up. And he goes to the men's clinic. I don't know what he finds there, but apparently Makoto is supposed to come along with him for some reason. He says that it's because Makoto is not showing him enough respect, that he can't get it up and all of that, right? And again, he's expecting Makoto to be the one to carry the shame for him of him not being able to perform sexually. It's like it's her fault for some reason that he can't get it up. She should change something about herself, something about her behavior that's going to make her worthy enough of her sexual prowess and virility, right? It's a very strange thing. And it's, again, a reflection of some of those dynamics that it's the woman's fault that she's not desirable enough for him to be able to give, to get pleasure from this man. So she must now hide and carry the shame on behalf of both of them. Then we have Tsepo, on the other hand, who 2 minutes into the marriage starts poking holes into the idea of marriage, of a polygamous marriage with his partner. Her name is Balisa. He is overweight, and I'm not saying this to body shame anyone, but he is visibly overweight. He drinks too much. I mean, in the previous episode, there was a whiskey tasting thing that they were doing, and he was so open and so like singing about how he's gonna drink because he's having problems in his marriage. He takes the portions that were given for the other one, Kulego, and he has it for himself, and he's just going on and on about how he needs a drink. And it's like, why are you 37 years old not actively trying to get yourself in shape, not because of the aesthetics of it all, but for the health reasons associated with it, right? You're approaching 40, no muscle in sight. You clearly are at risk of some other sicknesses that will obviously affect your wife in the long run, such as diabetes, and we know what that does to a person's sexual performance. So it's like, why are you wanting to get married and you still haven't really figured out that important aspect of your health? I don't know, guys. I think it's just so unfair because, again, since he seems to be financially stable and moneyed and whatever, he feels like he has the right to bring up polygamy and all of that. And he feels like he has the right to just let himself go, and whatever consequences come for this woman, if she ends up not enjoying or being sexually fulfilled in her marriage, it's not his fault as long as he has the money and he's giving her the money. So again, it's like, is this marriage thing is it actually something to strive for? And speaking of a woman that's supposed to be grateful because her man has money but does not look sexually appealing or attractive, Portia, who insisted that she wants a man who looks good, that she wants him tall, dark, and handsome, so that when she walks around with him, she feels good about herself, is forced into a dynamic with a man who is not good looking. And again, according to Portia's standards, because I mean, maybe the guy might look nice for other women, but she specifically doesn't find him attractive. And it's now this whole thing about she's shallow. Why is she not appreciating the fact that this man is a kind man and this man is da 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 da? So again, it's like, isn't a woman supposed to decide? Isn't a woman supposed to look for an attractive person, someone that she's going to actually enjoy looking at, touching, kissing, doing things to? So it's like she's dealing with the societal expectation that women are not supposed to demand that or expect that of their partners. As long as he's providing the money, it doesn't matter what he looks like. And I think this spoils a lot of South African men who let themselves go, who don't take care of themselves physically, because there's this sense of, if I have a big belly, if I'm moneyed, if I drive an expensive car, I'm automatically so attractive to a woman. And it's like, no. So it's unfortunate that Portia is forced into that situation, and she has to swallow the pill and appreciate, just because the man is showing a little bit of kindness and some whiff of maybe being financially well off. And don't get me started about Themba and the dryness of his personality and the naivety, or I don't know if it's overexcitement, of the women that he's partnered with, Unelisa. It is so abundantly clear that this man cannot construct an intellectual thought in his brain and actually speak life into this woman. I don't see him doing that. I feel like he's very, I'm a man, I walk around with money, I walk around with cars. Now I think he's got some kind of midlife crisis, because apparently he's also a DJ, and he's been paired with someone who's a lover girl, excited about life. I mean, the other episode, she was having wine, it was their honeymoon, and he goes on some, yeah, you're drinking too much, we're not going to take any alcohol home, if you ever drink like this again, I'm going to leave you, right? Just the sense of, I'm the man, just the sense of, yeah, she must perform for me and show me how good of a woman she is. He had the audacity to call his ex and mother of his children on the show while he was sitting with Nelisa on some, yeah, you know that now I'm married, you can't call me again. The mother of his children. And Nelisa is sitting right next to him, all giddy and appreciative of how honest this man is with her, and etc. So it's like, so you look at dynamics like this, right? And yes, I know it's mostly acted out, or let's say just because of the cameras, some of the stuff, we don't see the full story. But I do think that what ends up making it on camera is an actual, representation of the broader dynamics that you would find in most marriages. And again, like I said, because of the influences of the Christianity, the revitalized or regenerated traditional norms, and also the influence that we have from American popular culture, all of these catchphrases, right? So we are very much influenced by all of these cultural discourses and conversations. But what is left at the end of the day is a woman like myself who is genuinely just living her best life, genuinely just doing what she can to make sure that she creates a life and a future for herself that she's going to enjoy, and who is genuinely open to meeting someone who is of good intentions, of good social standing, someone who's respectable, who's respectful, and someone who has built a life for themselves, is able to take care of themselves, and is emotionally mature enough to come together with another human being and actually define a future for themselves. Because again, it's not that being single is necessarily by choice, but it's the only choice that you are given, like I'm saying, because we're not meant to be alone. We are social creatures, right? And I do feel at times that sense of wanting a witness to my life. I do feel a sense of saying, with all the achievements that I have, it would be nice to have someone who I share an intimate connection with. I mean, friendships are intimate, family relationships are intimate, and it's important for me to nurture those. But there's also an intimacy that comes from romantic relationships, right? So it's nice to say, I have someone who I have this intimate relationship with, and it's almost like we're connecting on a soul level, and we get to witness each other's contributions to society, right? Because ultimately we crave for that wanting to contribute, but also to be acknowledged for the contributions that we made to society and contribute to the multiplication of society, not just in children, in terms of bearing children, but in multiplication of ideas, multiplication through secondhand parenting. I'm a sister to my brother who I think because of my influence is going to grow up and become a different man. And I'm, I'm inspiring, right, other young women coming up to say you can actually direct your own life and actually achieve your dreams, etc. So it's not to say multiplication just for babies. So for someone like me who's now confronted with this, should I be getting married or shouldn't I be getting married? But also wanting to be in a partnership of sorts where I am attached to someone who's going to be a witness, right, to the greatness of my life. And I get to also share in the greatness of his life. I think that's a reasonable thing to ask for. But I think this day and age, it's something that I need to start thinking about outside of the institution of marriage, to think about what's possible for me without the traditional Christian and I guess external popular media gender roles and values that are going to be imposed upon me once I enter into this institution. So it's like, how else can I be able to benefit from that? How else can I be able to share my life with someone, have my sexual needs met, have my, financial vision also, multiply whatever goals that I have and just have someone to have fun with and enjoy life with at the same time without having to go through this process of saying, marry me, and all of that. It is a conundrum that I'm facing, and I think a lot of women in a similar position to mine are facing. And the conversation shouldn't be around whether or not this is the choice that I wanted to make, but it's the choice that I've made in the absence of anything else that could be viable and satisfactory for me in the position that I am in my life today. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, do comment down below. Tell me what you think. Are you in a similar position as me? Are you thinking about marriage in similar, terms like me, or do you have a completely different opinion about it? Do you think I should have just sat around and not done my PhD, not been a career go-getter, and just waited to meet the special someone? Because I know there might be people who, even after all the things I've said, will come into the comments and say things like that. So yeah, let me know what you think. And if you enjoyed this little sit down, I don't usually do sit down. I'm very much a vlogger. So I document my life. I do a lot of solo traveling. Solo dating is something I've been really into lately. I document my life as an academic. I document myself around the house doing little homemaking things. Funny that I'm into homemaking, and I'm also thinking about not getting married. So yeah, anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.